morning mist clung to Lake Victoria like a burial shroud. 8-year-old Kato's bare feet splashed through the shallows, his wooden toy boat cutting tiny wakes in the glassy water. His laughter echoed across the stillness, innocent, pure, completely unaware that these would be his last moments. "Kato, breakfast!" His mother's voice drifted from their mud brick hut, barely audible over the gentle lapping of waves against the shore. The boy didn't answer. He was too busy watching his boat bob in the deeper water just out of reach. He waded deeper, the cool lake water rising to his knees, then his waist. The boat danced just beyond his fingertips, teasing him forward. Then the water went still, completely, unnaturally still. Kato froze, suddenly aware of the absolute silence. No birds, no insects, even the gentle lake sounds had vanished. The hair on his small arms stood up as something massive shifted beneath the dark water. His mother found only the wooden boat floating in the shallows 20 minutes later. No footprints leading away, no signs of struggle, no blood. Just that cursed toy, spinning slowly in water that had turned black as obsidian. By noon, half the village was waist-deep in the lake, calling his name. Elder John Manene organized search parties that combed every inch of shoreline. They found nothing. As evening painted the sky the color of dried blood, the villagers gathered in hushed circles. "The curse has returned," someone whispered. Manene's weathered hands trembled as he spoke the truth that had haunted this place for 14 years. That makes 84. 84 souls taken by whatever lurked in these waters. 84 families destroyed. And now little Kato had joined that unholy count. 3 days later, I felt the familiar vibration of our Humvee's engine as we rolled into the village. Staff Sergeant Marcus Kane, they called me. 18 years of service, 3 tours in hostile territory. I thought I'd seen everything. I was wrong. The dust kicked up by our convoy settled slowly in the oppressive African heat. My 4-man squad, Private Jensen, Corporal Martinez, Private First Class Thompson, and Specialist Rodriguez, checked their gear out of habit. This was supposed to be routine. Community liaison, gather intel on rebel activity, show the flag. Nothing we hadn't done 100 times. But something felt off the moment we rolled into that village. The silence hit me first. African villages are usually alive with sound. Children playing, women chatting, men working. Here, I heard only the whisper of wind through palm fronds and the distant lapping of water. "Sarge, this place gives me the creeps," Jensen muttered, adjusting his M4. At 19, he still jumped at shadows, but his instincts were usually solid. Elder Manene approached our vehicle, his weathered face etched with exhaustion and something deeper. A bone-deep fear that made my skin crawl. Through our interpreter, he welcomed us with traditional courtesy, but his eyes kept darting toward the lake. "Ask him about recent activity," I ordered the interpreter. "Any unusual incidents, strangers in the area." The old man's reaction was immediate. His face went ashen, and he began speaking rapidly in his native tongue. The interpreter looked uncomfortable as he translated. "He says there was an incident 3 days ago. A child went missing near the lake, but Sergeant, he's talking about something else too. He says this has been happening for 14 years, dozens of people. He calls it," the interpreter paused, "he calls it a demon." I felt the familiar weight of my sidearm against my hip. Demons didn't exist, but predators did. Human monsters who preyed on isolated communities. "Tell him we'll look into it," I said, scanning the village perimeter. Every military instinct I developed screamed that something was hunting here. I just didn't know what. As we set up our temporary command post, I noticed how the villagers avoided the eastern shore of the lake, how their eyes held a haunted quality I'd only seen in war zones, how even the bravest men wouldn't venture near the water after sunset. That first night, as I posted Jensen on Lakeside Watch, I had no idea I was sending him to his death. I found Jensen's rifle at 3:47 a.m., abandoned on the muddy bank like a discarded toy. His radio crackled with static when I keyed it. His night vision goggles lay half submerged in the shallows, but Jensen himself had simply vanished. The drag marks in the mud led straight into the black water and disappeared. "Jesus Christ," Rodriguez whispered, his flashlight beam dancing across the disturbed shoreline. "What the hell happened here?" I'd seen men disappear before, taken by snipers, lost to IEDs, swallowed by the chaos of war. But this was different. There was no blood, no shell casings, no signs of a firefight, just those drag marks and the oppressive sense that something vast and patient had been watching us from the depths. At dawn, Elder Manini appeared at our camp like a ghost materializing from the morning mist. His translator, a young man named Samuel, looked terrified as the old man spoke in rapid, urgent bursts. "He says he tried to warn you," Samuel translated, his voice shaking. "The lake, it takes people, has been taking people for 14 years. Your soldier is the 85th. My training told me to dismiss this as superstition. 14 years of disappearances meant human trafficking, rebel activity, or a serial killer, not demons, not lake monsters. But the way Manini's eyes reflected genuine terror made my blood run cold. "Tell me about these disappearances," I said, settling into field interview mode. The story that emerged chilled me to the bone. 84 people over 14 years, all taken near the lake. Men, women, children. The thing showed no preference. Bodies that were found showed signs of massive trauma, as if they'd been torn apart by something with incredible strength. "There's more," Manini said through Samuel. "3 days ago, a boy named Kato disappeared. Same spot where your soldier was taken. We searched for days." The tactical part of my mind kicked in. If there was a predator, human or animal, operating in this area, it was my responsibility to neutralize the threat. But something deeper, some primal instinct, told me we were dealing with something beyond our understanding. "We'll find your boy," determined, I heard myself saying, though I wasn't sure why I believed we could succeed where the villagers had failed. Manini gripped my arm with surprising strength. "The water remembers," he whispered in broken English. "It never forgets, and it's always hungry." I spent the next 12 hours doing what I did best, gathering intelligence and planning our response. But every piece of information I collected made the situation more unsettling. The villagers called the eastern shore the butchery. That's where most bodies were discovered, when they were found at all. Martinez and I conducted a daylight reconnaissance of the area, our boots squelching through the marshy ground. The silence was absolute. No insects buzzed, no birds called. Even the ever-present African wind seemed to hold its breath when we approached the water's edge. "Sarge, this doesn't feel right," Martinez muttered, scanning the tree line through his rifle scope. "Feels like something's watching us." He was right. The sensation of unseen eyes tracking our every movement made my skin crawl. I'd felt it before, in hostile territory, just before ambushes. But this was different, older, hungrier. The lake stretched out before us, its surface black as oil, despite the brilliant African sun. The water was deeper here, dropping off sharply just a few feet from shore. Perfect hunting ground for an ambush predator. "Look at this," Thompson called from behind a stand of papyrus reeds. "We found the remains of a campsite. Cold ashes, scattered gear, drag marks leading into the water. But what caught my attention was the smell. Underneath the musty odor of stagnant water and rotting vegetation, there was something else. Something that reminded me of a slaughterhouse. That evening, I radioed our findings to command. The response was predictable: maintain position, investigate thoroughly. But reinforcements wouldn't arrive for 48 hours due to other operations taking priority. We were on our own. As darkness fell, I posted guards and tried to process what we were dealing with. My rational mind insisted on a human explanation: a serial killer, human traffickers, rebels using fear tactics. But sitting in that stifling African night, listening to the water lap against the shore with an almost deliberate rhythm, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being hunted by something ancient and patient.
"What's the plan, Sarge?" Rodriguez asked, cleaning his M4 for the third time that day. I stared out at the black water where Jensen had disappeared just 24 hours ago, where little Cato had vanished 3 days before that, where 83 other souls had been claimed over the past 14 years. "We're going to watch and wait," I said. "Whatever's out there took one of ours. That makes it our problem to solve." But even as I spoke those confident words, I couldn't shake the feeling that we weren't the hunters in this scenario. We were the prey. "We set up overwatch positions here, here, and here," I said, pointing to locations on my hand-drawn map of the shoreline. "Overlapping fields of fire, night vision, motion detectors. Treat this like any other hostile surveillance op." My remaining 3 soldiers nodded, but I could see the doubt in their eyes. How do you fight something you can't identify? How do you engage a threat that might not even be human? "What exactly are we hunting, Sarge?" Thompson asked, stripping and cleaning his rifle with the methodical precision of a nervous soldier. "Unknown predator," I replied, falling back on military terminology to make sense of the senseless. "Could be human trafficking operation, could be a big cat, could be..." I paused, unwilling to voice the alternatives my mind was considering. "Could be a demon," Rodriguez finished quietly. The word hung in the air like smoke from a funeral pyre. None of us believed in demons. We were soldiers, trained in facts and firepower. But after 2 days in this cursed place, rationality felt as fragile as spider silk. "We don't deal in demons," I said firmly. "We deal in targets and threats. Whatever's out there bleeds, and if it bleeds, we can kill it." But my confidence felt hollow, even to my own ears. We spent the afternoon preparing defensive positions in the tall papyrus reeds that bordered the eastern shore, camouflaged blinds, interlocking fields of fire, escape routes planned and memorized, everything by the book. Except the book didn't cover what to do when the enemy might be something from the villagers' nightmares. As the sun set, painting the lake the color of old blood, I took my position closest to the water. Through my night vision scope, the lake surface looked like black glass, perfectly still except for occasional ripples with no apparent source. "All stations, radio check," I whispered into my comm. "Martinez, copy. Thompson, copy. Rodriguez, copy." 3 voices. Yesterday we'd been 4. The empty frequency where Jensen should have responded felt like an open wound. Hour 1 passed in tense silence. Then hour 2. My night vision revealed nothing but shadows and the occasional splash of a fish jumping. But the feeling of being watched intensified with each passing minute. Something was out there, something patient and intelligent, something that had been hunting humans for 14 years. Night 1, 2 a.m. The sound started as a low rumble, like distant thunder from a storm that never came. It seemed to rise from the depths of the lake itself, vibrating through the muddy ground and into my bones. "You hearing this?" Martinez's voice crackled through the calm, tight with tension. "Copy that. Hold position." The rumbling grew louder, more deliberate. Through my night vision, I watched the lake's surface ripple in perfect concentric circles, as if something massive had disturbed the water far below. Then silence. Complete, absolute silence that pressed against my eardrums like cotton stuffed in a coffin. We maintained watch until dawn. Nothing else happened, but that sound, that deliberate, intelligent sound, haunted my dreams during the few hours of fitful sleep I managed. Night 2 brought worse. The rumbling returned, but this time it was accompanied by something that made my blood freeze. The sound of Jensen's voice, calling for help from somewhere beneath the black water. "Sarge, help me! I'm trapped down here. The water! Oh God, the water!" Thompson broke position, splashing toward the lake before I could stop him. "Jensen, where are you?" I tackled him at the water's edge, both of us crashing into the muddy shallows. "That's not Jensen," I hissed, tasting lake water in terror. "Jensen's dead." But the voice continued, growing more desperate, more human, more real. "Please, I can see the light. Pull me up." Rodriguez was crying now, his rifle shaking in his grip. "Jesus, Sarge, we have to help him." "That's not our man," firmly, I repeated, but doubt gnawed at my certainty. What if Jensen was somehow alive down there? What if we were abandoning a fellow soldier to die? The voice faded with the dawn, leaving us shaken and questioning our own sanity. By night 3, we were barely holding together. The sounds had evolved into something more complex. Multiple voices now, all the missing villagers, perhaps, calling from beneath the lake's surface. Men, women, children, all begging for rescue from their watery prison. But it was night 4 that broke us. I was watching the lake through my scope when Martinez screamed. Not a soldier's cry of alarm, but the sound of a man whose mind had snapped under unbearable pressure. "It's moving under the water!" he shrieked. "Something huge! It's coming up!" Through my night vision, I saw what had destroyed Martinez's sanity. The entire lake surface was rising, as if something the size of a city bus was ascending from the depths. The water bulged upward, higher and higher, until it seemed impossible that anything living could be that large. Then it submerged again, leaving the lake perfectly still. Martinez never recovered. He sat rocking back and forth, muttering about the thing under the water and eyes like headlights staring up from hell. Night 5. Thompson started talking to himself. Conversations with Jensen, with his dead father, with people who existed only in his fragmenting mind. I found him at the water's edge at dawn, preparing to wade in. "Jensen's down there, Sarge," he said, with terrifying calm. "He told me how to find him. I just have to follow the voices." I restrained him, but I could feel my own grip on reality beginning to slip. How do you fight an enemy that attacked your mind? How do you maintain military discipline when reality itself has become fluid? Night 6. Rodriguez disappeared. Not taken like Jensen, but gone. We found his gear neatly stacked by his position and a note. "Can't take the voices anymore. Going to find some peace." We never found his body. By night 7, it was just me and what remained of Martinez's shattered mind. The plan had failed. The stakeout had broken my team more effectively than any enemy fire. But I couldn't quit. Jensen deserved justice. Little Cato deserved justice. 85 souls cried out for vengeance from whatever hell existed beneath that black water. "One more night," I told Martinez, though he no longer seemed to hear me. "One more night, and we'll know what we're fighting." As darkness fell on our 7th night, I prepared the bait that would finally draw our tormentor from its underwater lair. MREs, medical supplies, anything that might attract a predator to the shoreline. I was done being hunted. Tonight I would become the hunter.
But in the back of my mind, Jensen's voice whispered a warning from beyond the grave. It's not what you think, Sarge. It's so much worse.
4 a.m., night 7.
The lake lay before me like a wound in the earth, black and perfectly still. Martinez had finally succumbed to catatonia, sitting motionless in our blind with 1,000-yard stare of the completely broken. I was alone. The bait I'd laid out, MREs, medical supplies, even my own field rations, sat arranged near the water's edge, connected to a jury-rigged alarm system of tripwires and empty cans. If anything larger than a rat touched those supplies, I'd know. Hours crawled by. My night vision scope revealed nothing but the endless expanse of dark water and the gentle sway of papyrus reeds. Even the voices that had tormented us for 6 nights had fallen silent. Maybe it was over. Maybe whatever haunted this place had finally moved on, satisfied with its collection of soldiers and villagers. Then the water began to move. At first, just ripples spreading outward from the center of the lake, then larger disturbances, as if something massive was rising from the abyssal depths. The rumbling sound returned, so deep and powerful that it seemed to shake the earth itself. My finger found the trigger of my M4, though bullets felt inadequate against whatever was emerging from that liquid hell. The sound grew louder, more focused. Not the random noise of some mindless beast, but something deliberate and intelligent. Something that had been watching, waiting, learning our patterns for 7 nights. The water began to bulge upward 30 meters from shore, higher and higher, until it looked like a dark mountain was being born from the lake's surface. My hands trembled as I tried to keep my rifle steady. Then it breached. The creature that erupted from Lake Victoria was nothing from any training manual, nothing from any nightmare I'd ever experienced. 16 feet of prehistoric terror, its massive head alone larger than our Humvee. Scales the color of old blood gleamed wetly in the starlight. Eyes like headlamps focused on my position with unmistakable intelligence. Saltwater crocodile. But not just any crocodile. This was a monster that had no business existing in an African lake. A creature that belonged in the ocean depths, not in fresh water 1,000 miles from the nearest sea. It moved with fluid grace despite its enormous bulk, 2,000 pounds of muscle and bone and ancient hunger. When its jaws opened, I saw teeth the size of railroad spikes, still decorated with strips of cloth that might once have been Jensen's uniform. Jesus Christ, I whispered, my voice lost in the thunder of its approach. The creature charged my bait with shocking speed, covering the distance from water to shore in seconds. Heavy-duty cargo nets I'd salvaged from our vehicle dropped from the trees, tangling around the beast's head and forelegs. Steel cables I'd rigged to nearby trees went taut, restraining the creature's movement. For a moment, I thought I'd actually captured the thing. Then it began to fight back. The roar that erupted from its throat was like nothing I'd ever heard, part rage, part challenge, part promise of death. The creature thrashed against its restraints with terrifying strength, snapping steel cables like rubber bands and tearing through military-grade netting as if it were tissue paper. But the trap held long enough for me to radio for immediate evac, long enough for me to fire 3 tranquilizer darts into the beast's armored hide. Drugs meant for large African mammals, though I doubted they'd have much effect on something this size. The creature's struggles slowed, then stopped. Its massive eyes remained fixed on me, burning with an intelligence that was definitely not animal. This thing had been hunting humans for 14 years, not out of instinct, but out of choice. It had learned our patterns, adapted its hunting methods, selected its victims with calculated precision. As the first helicopter thundered overhead, its spotlight illuminating the impossible scene below, I found myself staring into those ancient eyes and seeing something that would haunt me for the rest of my life. Recognition. This creature knew me, knew I was the one who had finally outsmarted it. And in that moment of mutual understanding, I realized the truth that would never make it into any official report. This wasn't just a crocodile. This was something older, something that had been perfecting the art of human predation long before our species learned to make fire. And somewhere in those intelligent eyes, I saw a promise. This wasn't over. The wildlife authorities called it the largest saltwater crocodile ever recorded in Uganda. 16 feet, 4 inches, 2,137 pounds. They relocated it to a secure facility 200 miles away, complete with reinforced concrete barriers and 24-hour monitoring. I received a commendation. My surviving team members, what was left of them, received psychological evaluation and medical discharge. The official report listed Jensen as KIA, cause unknown. Rodriguez was listed as AWOL, presumed dead. The village celebrated for 3 days straight. Elder Manene thanked me with tears in his eyes, calling me their savior. Children played by the lake again. Families returned to their normal routines. But I knew better. 18 years of military service had taught me to trust my instincts. And my instincts screamed that we'd captured a symptom, not the disease. Whatever had created that creature, whatever force had guided its 14-year reign of terror, was still out there. Still waiting. Still hungry. 6 months later, I received a call from the facility holding the creature. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, the head researcher, sounded shaken. "Sergeant Kane, we need to discuss your crocodile," she said. "It's displaying behaviors we've never seen before, problem-solving abilities far beyond normal crocodilian intelligence. Yesterday, it figured out how to work the electronic lock on its enclosure." My blood turned to ice. "Is it contained?" "For now, but Sergeant, this thing watches us, studies our routines. It's learning our patterns just like it learned yours." Through my apartment window, I could see a small pond in the local park. Children played there every afternoon, their laughter carrying on the wind. I thought about intelligent eyes watching from dark water, about patient predators that remembered everything and forgot nothing. "Keep it locked up, Doc," I said, "and pray it never gets out, because if it did, I knew exactly where it would come looking first."